Welcome to the Breech Birth Podcast. I'm Sasha Hopkins, private midwife, breech birth educator, and your host. This is a space to hear the real, raw, and powerful stories of women who have experienced breech birth in all its layers. Each episode features honest conversations with women who've experienced breech firsthand, offering insight and reflection. This podcast was born from the knowing that these stories need to be heard, to inform, connect, and reclaim the story of breech birth. Whether you're navigating breech birth yourself, supporting others, or simply curious, welcome and thank you. The Breech Birth Podcast is independently created and produced. If you'd like to support the continuation of this space, you can do so through Buy Me a Coffee. Your support helps keep these stories being shared and accessible to women and families around the world, and you can find the link in the show notes. Thank you for being a part of this community. Hi, Caitlin. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Before you jump into your story, would you mind sharing just a little snapshot about what your story will entail? So you've had two breech babies. What year were they born?
2018 and 2025.
And what location were you when you had them?
The Wollongong area.
In New South Wales, Australia. And how many weeks were you for the two?
Because my first was a C-section, it was earlier, it was 39 weeks. And I went into labour naturally with my third at 39 and 6.
And what kind of care did you receive in those two pregnancies?
First was MGP. The third was MGP to home birth to then finding out I was breech to hospital care again at a different hospital.
Okay. It's quite a journey.
Yeah, it was.
And so you had a cesarean for your first, and what did you have for your second?
So just head down VBAC.
Oh, yes. So second baby. So sorry for those listening. We've had 3 babies. First one was breech. Second was head down. And then your third baby, which was your second breech, that was vaginal. Yeah, beautiful. Before we jump into your story, would you mind sharing just a little bit of context about yourself, a little bit of background?
Yeah, I'm 32. Yeah, 3 girls. Oh, I don't even know. I hate talking about myself. I love talking about my birth. Yeah, so 32. I'm a teacher, but at the moment stay-at-home mum. I want to be for as long as possible. 2018, 2022 was my second, so SQ3, and then 2025 was my third. So she just turned 3 months old.
Great. Awesome. Do you want to jump into your story? So your first pregnancy, you ended up with a breech. So what did the beginning of the pregnancy look like? How did you choose your care provider? How was your pregnancy? Were you well? Did you get nausea?
Yeah, so I'm lucky I have 3 sisters, and the oldest ones have had babies as well. And my older sister's a midwife as well. So they told me get straight on to MGP. So I did, and I was really lucky to be accepted. I was very sick. Up until about 15 weeks or so. I was a bit young. I was 25 when I had my first. So still had quite a bit of energy and, worked all the way up to 38 weeks and 37 weeks because of the Caesar. Yeah, so then I got to, I think it was a 20-week scan, and they said that my placenta was very low lying, but at that time she was head down. By the time my next scan came up, she was breech, and my placenta hadn't moved. I don't know the term, but you have a second lobe. So I had the main placenta and the second lobe. So pretty rare too. Yeah, so I had that. So they just said that she pretty much had no room to turn back around. My midwife was lovely. She retired just after I had her. So lots of experience. I didn't really know a lot about birth at the time. I put all my faith in, the care team at the hospital, booked in for the Caesar. It was just a really quite straightforward Caesar. No real lasting issues, but, it was the only way, it could happen with the low-lying placenta as well. But yes, she was frank breech. So we didn't have any hip issues, but she was very twisted for the first few weeks. Legs went in one direction and her upper body went in the other direction.
Do you want to just share, because you've had an elective cesarean, not necessarily just for breech, but for the low-lying placenta. Do you want to just share that experience and what that process looked like for you?
Yeah, so it was a bit easier back then because I heard now they don't actually book in a set day. They'll just call you and be like, oh, this is the time. But I got to actually book in the date we wanted. We were given 3 dates and they said, which one do you want? And we just picked the the 10th. So that was a Monday. So we just went in. I think they got us in at like 6:30 a.m. But then once you're in, it can take all day to get in if there's like emergencies and stuff. So I remember just being so hungry because you couldn't eat from the night before. And I think we had a just after 11 a.m. and it was very nerve wracking, especially like when I first went in because my husband couldn't be in there with me at the start. And they put the needle in. I had a student do it, and it took like 3 attempts for him to actually get the spinal in the right spot. So that was a little that hurt a little bit. But in saying that, I hadn't really done much research about birth and everything like that. So I just thought, this is what has to happen. I was happy with it, and again, there was nothing else I could do. But now, like looking back, I wish I asked for other things, or like I'll get into it later when I start talking about this recent birth. But the things I asked for if I needed a Caesar. But yeah, it was. Then I think we were out at day 5. But I know you can get out pretty early now, like at 48 hours or so. Overall, it was an okay experience. I had a very good milk supply, so I didn't have to worry about that. My milk still came in quite early.
With the birth, jumping back into theatre, did you know what you're having?
Yeah. So we knew what we were having.
Yeah. And did baby come straight to you, or did they need?
No. See, that was the one thing that I didn't know then, but they said it was cold. So they completely wrapped her up, came and put her face against my face for probably like a minute. And then my husband, who was sitting next to me, got her. And then they said, okay, Dad, you take her out. We're going to sew her back up. So I didn't actually hold her or do anything skin until I was in recovery.
Yeah, okay. And how was that for you, that process?
Not great. I do know, I did struggle with some postpartum depression and things, and I do think I put it down to the Caesar, honestly, and not having direct skin to skin because I didn't have that time, or with my second as well. And the only thing that was different was the birth itself.
Yeah. And so you went to recovery, but then you got some skin to skin. And did Bubby latch?
Yeah, so we had feeding issues, but she did latch straight away. And I did have a really good supply, but I was able to do that.
Yeah, great. And postpartum, so you said you had a bit of postpartum depression. Did you have a good support network after that first one?
Yeah, so my husband's great. And then, my mum, and then I have 3 sisters. So lots of people around me.
Gathered around. Great. So what's the age? So you had your second one was cephalic, but if we can get just a little snapshot on what that journey looked like, because you obviously had now an elective cesarean. So I'm assuming looking to have a VBAC, and what did that look like, trying to find someone that would support you in that journey? And what if this baby is a breech, and will you do a VBAC breech? I can imagine all those sorts of questions would have come up for you.
Yeah, so I straight away applied for MGP again at the same hospital, and they did put me back onto MGP. So I did just have that care with one specific midwife. I had started doing a lot of research at that point around birth, listening to podcasts, listening to stories. So I felt a lot more informed. And I really wanted a VBAC, and she was willing to support me with that. Again, I didn't know as much as I know now, but the whole time I was like, yep, I'm having this VBAC, and I was just trying to be really positive, putting it out into the universe. All of the scans, she was just head down, never presented as breech in any of my scans. It was a little bit more of a tricky pregnancy. I ended up on Clexane because I had a blood clot in my leg, so that was for 6 weeks leading up to it. So there was talk at one point of, we'll have to see how we go, and I was like, no, I'm having a VBAC. And then, but my second was born 6 days before my eldest's birthday. So she was almost 2 weeks late, and then my eldest was 1 week early because I just went naturally. So I had a stretch and sweep the day before, and then I went into labour naturally after having acupuncture and everything. I went into the hospital. I didn't really want to stretch and sweep, but I also did not want to have kids born on the same day if I could help it. And I didn't want to be in the hospital either when it was her birthday. And I laboured really well. It wasn't even a super long labour. I got into hospital when I was already in active labour. I went in the bath, but I was talked into going on CTG, which I didn't want. But when you're in labour, I know sometimes it's a lot harder to push back. So I had the CTG because it wasn't really connecting properly because it wasn't
the wireless.
Yeah, that's it. So every time I would move, it would disconnect. So they had to get me in certain positions that weren't necessarily comfortable for me. And then when it came to the actual birth itself, they were saying there was decelerations when I was pushing, and I was upright at the time, and they said, no, you have to get on your back and push. We have to get this baby out. There was lots of other things leading up to it. My midwife, she shouldn't have been there. By the time I had her, she had worked almost a 24-hour shift. I think she was really tired, so I ended up bringing in another midwife, and she was very bossy. She's like, no, get on your back. And I knew I shouldn't be doing it, but when you told your baby's having decelerations, kind of just go along with it. And they literally pushed my legs back to my chest and said, hold your breath, push, push, push. And I was a very efficient pusher, and she came out so fast that I had a 4th-degree tear, and I lost 2 litres of blood. So I had to go into surgery after that. And I always just say, like, you know, I knew so much, and then that still happened. So I feel like that birth was like stolen from me, I guess, like that positive experience that I really wanted. The aftercare wasn't great either. The doctor that stitched me up came to me and said, you can't have another natural birth. If you have another natural birth, you're going to end up with a colostomy bag. Really, like, you know, it was like, you need to get on the pill straight away because you can't have a baby, and you have to wait this long before you even start trying. And I just got out of surgery. I wasn't thinking about that. And then so all the way up until I, fell pregnant the 3rd time, I was seeing, pelvic floor therapists, and I was doing everything I could because 4th-degree tears, they can come with lots of like complications throughout your life. I may have to have a repair later on. When I went into the pelvic floor clinic for a few scans and things, the whole clinic's just full of women, like older women, which, does go to show that, birth and pregnancy can really affect your pelvic floor. So I just recommend pelvic floor therapy to everyone that's had babies, regardless of if you've had a birth or not.
Yeah, I agree. Did you breastfeed your second as well?
So I extend breastfeeding. So I did 2 years for my first, 2 years for my second. It was actually how I found out I was pregnant with my third. We weren't actually actively trying. And I was like, oh, I'm so sore. Like, it hurts every time I feed her. So I ended up having to stop with her when I was about 8 weeks because I was so touched out. It was just hurting every time. So I was like, no, not doing that anymore. But yeah, that's how I pretty much knew. I was like, oh yeah, I'm pregnant. And I know that breastfeeding can also affect like how well you heal and stuff with your pelvic floor and things. So yeah.
Yeah, lots of maternal benefits, long and short. So then what was the age frame between one and 2 again?
Just shy of 4 years, 6 days. Yeah, I have a 7-year-old and then 3.
And then what was the time frame with your second and your third?
Just under 3 years. The third one was a very happy surprise. We always talked about one and the third, but I just wasn't sure how I would handle it. 2 kids I felt was really full on, and, lots of things going on, house renovations and everything like that. So it was just, my husband was away for work at the time, just coming home on weekends. So that was a surprise phone call to him. He was like, what? How?
Well, do we need to do the birds and the bees talk? And so you found out. And how did you feel? Because you've said that you've had quite a traumatic experience. How did you feel when you found out you were pregnant?
Well, what I feel like I did was, once you have a baby, you kind of like, you don't really care about yourself as much. All your focus is on your baby. And I feel like I just really suppressed everything around that birth. And I know there was signs that I didn't handle it very well. Like, I couldn't read positive birth stories because it would make me really jealous, and then it would just bring everything up and I get really angry and upset, like, why couldn't that have been me? So I just kind of stopped wanting to listen to people's births, and like, I didn't even have any interventions. I didn't do anything. I did everything I was meant to do, and then that still happened. So I don't know, there was a lot of resentment, I guess, and especially towards like the birthing team as well, because I do think there was like a little bit of negligence there as well. But so that just kind of brought everything up. So my third pregnancy wasn't great. I feel like I didn't really connect with the baby. So third, we didn't find out the gender. We're like, no, we'll have a surprise. I feel like it did take me a long time to really bond and connect. And it was the whole birth, the whole pregnancy. I mean, it was just this stress of what am I going to do? Because I'm doing all my research and I'm researching about births after 4th-degree tears. There's really not much research on it. Not many studies. All I know is it's gone up about I think it was something, that was one study done in Scotland. It had gone up from like 1.8% to 5.9% from the 90s till now, or to like 2012, I think it was. So yeah, it's gone up a lot.
In the risk of having another.
Yeah, so more and more people are having fourth degree tears now than they had used to. So then it was like, what if I tear again? But what if I don't tear again? What am I going to do? But I knew that for my own healing, like emotionally, mentally, I couldn't have a Caesar. I just felt like the first one was fine, but it was just really cold and attached. And to me, that's not what birth is. I ended up I don't know how I did it, but I got onto MGP again at the same hospital. But from the start, it was a bit of a struggle. The first time I went, I was just like, I cried in the car before I went in for my first appointment because I did not want to be back at that hospital. I did really consider home birth, but financially, we just didn't know how it was going to work. So I got onto MGP. I said, I don't want that midwife that I had before. They gave me another one. And she was like, it seemed like she was really in my corner. She was saying, yep, we're going to get everything you want. And I was like, if I have a natural, this is what I want. If I have a Caesar, that I wanted like maternal assisted. I wanted to avoid antibiotics until the placenta was detached. I didn't want the cord cut. I wanted the placenta taken out and kind of placed next to me. And yeah, it was just downhill from there. But
it sounds like you're quite adamant and knew what you wanted either way.
Yes, and even if I had to have a Caesar, I wanted as natural as possible. But yeah, and at first she was like, I feel like this midwife really wanted to give me what I wanted. But every time I came back for another appointment, it was like, oh, I spoke to someone, we can't do that. Or oh, no, we can't do that. So feel like she really wanted things to work out for me, but the higher ups were like, no way. So New South Wales, pretty much no public hospital will do on a maternal assisted Caesar. Even if it's not like fully maternal assisted where I reach down, even if she's just placed on me straight away. And I was like, I want more than the 30 to 60 seconds of the cord being attached. And they were trying to tell me there's no extra benefit to the cord being attached any longer. They're like, oh, the baby gets, I think they go like 70% of their blood. And I was like, why is 70% like the golden standard? They go, oh, the baby will be too cold. I was like, what's wrong with just picking up the baby, putting the baby on my chest and then just waiting? And they didn't want that. But then I was like, okay, it doesn't matter because I'm having a natural birth. And well, as soon as I said lotus birth, it was like the obstetrician had a heart attack. I was like, I'm not leaving it attached for like 2 weeks. I just don't want to cut after 30 seconds. And I was like, can't you just put it next to me? And they're like, no, we can't do that. There's no room. I was like, what do you mean there's no room? I was like, give my husband a bucket and he'll hold it.
And I'd love to just jump in here and just let the listeners know that is possible. I've seen it. So for women who may not necessarily chosen lotus birth, but ended up in emergency cesarean, that was part of their backup plan. If I went for a cesarean, I'm having a lotus birth because they wanted to keep them connected and do that in their own time. And that's exactly what they did. Dad sat, either baby was on mum and dad supported the bucket, or dad had baby and bucket. It's not rocket science, people.
That's what, when I was having this chat with this obstetrician, she was very condescending. She just was like, why kind of thing. And that worried me the most, that an obstetrician, someone that works with mothers and babies, didn't see the benefit of leaving the cord attached to the baby.
But even if there's no benefit, it doesn't matter. It's your decision. Yeah. It's your birth.
Especially when they were very adamant that I needed it. That after the fourth degree tear, they said there's a 4 to 7% chance of a repeat tear. And if you have a repeat tear, it's going to be, awful. It's going to be harder to stitch you up because there's scar tissue. You can, end up with like a colostomy bag, like all these things. It was a lot of fear. They were really trying to get me to have the Caesar. Yeah, so I still didn't want the Caesar, but I had the plan just in case.
Yeah.
They also said, even if you don't have another fourth degree tear, there's about a 15% chance risk of worsening my symptoms. But in my head, I was like, I'll tell you what, it's going to be natural. I'm not going to tear. It's going to be completely fine. 24 weeks, I was helping my neighbour move and I tripped and fell and I had to go into hospital. I kind of still have like a bit of a scar here from it. It's not going.
Wow. A decent fall then.
I protected my stomach. So I kind of had my hands down, and so my hands were all cut up. My legs were cut up. My stomach was fine, but yeah, my face and all my ears all over the concrete. So I went in for a scan and they said baby's breech. So I had a few scans after that. Baby never turned. The more appointments I went to, the more worked up I was getting. I wasn't receiving the support that I wanted. I just wanted to be validated. Hearing things like, why do you want a natural birth? Why is it so important to have a natural birth? And just, I just feel like there wasn't really much understanding about like it being like a healing experience for me. So then I ended up bringing on a home birth midwife to take over my care.
And so how many weeks were you?
I think that was about 27 weeks.
Okay.
Because the whole plan was that the baby was going to turn.
So 27 or 37?
27 or 28
Okay.
weeks, I believe. But I still was talking with the hospital just in case. But I said, no, the baby's going to turn. So I was doing all the spinning babies. I did osteo, acupuncture, chiro, all the spinning babies every night. I was doing the moxibustion, and it just was not working. So she was just honest with me. She's like, look, I can't do a planned natural breech birth, like as a home birth. So she ended up looking after me after the birth though, and she was beautiful. I'm so glad I still had her. So I ended up going back to my local hospital. MGP dumped me. They said I was too high need.
They don't continue the care for that?
No, they didn't. I got like a letter in the mail. It was really quite, I think I was too much for them because I was calling them out on things. I caught my midwife out lying to me a few times, like when she didn't respond to me, but my friend was seeing her at the same time as well. And she said, I'm sorry, I was on leave, but my friend went to her appointment. So there was like lies. And then I was referred to the head midwife, and she said, oh, I'm going to take your care because she's actually gone now. She hadn't gone. She was still there. But yeah, it's just I just felt really just unsupported. And they obviously wrote, I'll get into it, but yeah, they were obviously writing notes about me as well. But then I think it was 37 weeks. I'd seen the doctor. They wouldn't do an ECV at my hospital because they go, you've had a Caesar, so we can't do ECV.
Okay.
So then I was like, that's it. I'm calling one of the hospitals in Sydney that do Breech. And then I called them and I just got on the clinic. I spoke to the most amazing midwife. Fortunately, the obstetrician that was doing breech births had retired just a few weeks before I had called her. But she was so knowledgeable and she's like, come on in. We'll speak to you. I think that was actually 35 weeks, sorry, not 37 weeks. So I went in. My husband was still very, very against natural breech because there's so much fear around it. And when he came to like one of the hospital appointments at my local, they're like, oh, double the chance that your baby will die. And they don't tell you it's 1 in 1,000. Sorry?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's 1 in 1,000 versus 2 in 1,000.
Yeah, so they don't tell you that though. They just say you're double the risk, but they don't actually say the numbers of what the actual risks are, which I don't think is really informed consent because they're not giving you the true numbers.
That's not giving you risks and benefits. Yeah,
yeah,
they need to be giving you all the information. Okay.
Yeah, so I went to this other hospital, this amazing, amazing midwife, and then my husband came and he was like so on board with it after we saw her. But I was like, we'll try an ECV just in case, see if we can get this baby head down. But she did say, she's like, there's no increased risk of having another severe tear if you have a breech baby because she's a girl. But so they go, it's frank breech. So they go, the hips are the same, pretty much the same size as what the head will be. So, if you're not going to tear when the hips come out, it'll be fine. So they go, you're not at an increased risk of tearing severely with a breech baby. So I was happy with that. And yeah, I went back for a few appointments, had the ECV. The ECV wasn't great. What's the injection?
Terbutaline, so a muscle relaxant?
Yes, so my heart was beating so impossibly fast. The obstetrician that did it, I was watching quite a few before I went in because I wanted to know what to expect. And she used no oil, nothing to make it slippery. So it was just her skin against my skin. And yeah, it was quite uncomfortable. And she tried both ways. They went backwards first because of the Bud's position. They thought going backwards might actually be easier. And both ways, they would not get past halfway. But the second attempt, I was like, you need to stop. I thought I was going to faint. So they just stopped straight away. And I'll tell you, this baby's just not meant to turn. Like, this is the position that they're happy in. It's just not meant to be. So I'm just going to go ahead and go with the natural breech. I had this whole plan written out. So breech is obviously meant to be very hands off, and I wanted that completely. But I also said, just please support my perineum was my biggest.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was obviously written in my notes that my hospital transferred over because one of the obstetricians I spoke to said, "Oh, it says here that you have a big mistrust of, doctors and the hospital system," which I did. But being at this hospital has completely changed my perspective again. And I know now that there are obstetricians and doctors and midwives that just truly just want the best for you. And it ended up being the most amazing experience. So I ended up going to labor. Actually, I was having like almost 3 weeks of early labor. Every night I was having contractions, and sometimes they would speed up. I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. And then they would just fizzle out. So by the time I actually went into labor, I was just exhausted. I wasn't getting any sleep. We went in a few times, but I thought I was in labor. And they're like, no, you're not. But it was just really lucky the night it happened. My mum was staying, so she just had the kids anyway. But I was having the contractions again, and I wasn't thinking anything of it, just trying to sleep through it. And my husband came in, and I was like, oh, it's happening again. I'm going to go to the bathroom. And I stood up, and it was this pop, and my waters just broke everywhere. And then I was like, okay, we'll just see how we go. I will stay at home a while, but we can't leave it too late because the hospital we're going to is about a 2-hour drive away.
Yeah.
But it was the middle of the night, so it wasn't too bad. But as soon as my waters broke, they were 5 minutes apart. So I was like, what do we do here? So I called them up, and they said, yep, start coming in. We'd prefer you here than at home, especially because once it starts getting, busy in the morning, it'll take us a long time. And I didn't want to be stuck in the car in peak hour. Yep. And then when we got in the car, it was like 2 minutes apart. One of the obstetricians that was on called up and said, no, I want you to present to your closest hospital just in case your cord's presenting first. And I was like, no, sorry, I'm not doing that. They're not going to let me have a natural breech birth. We're coming in. So my husband ended up getting us there in an hour because I've never seen Sydney roads so empty in my life. There was like no cars on the road because like 1:30 in the morning. By the time we got in, they were still 2 minutes apart. And then they're like, oh, we'd like to give you a cannula just in case. And at that point, I was very much, all right, I'll give a little because, they're giving me a lot of what I want. So I was like, okay.
Because you had that big blood loss after the last one.
Yeah. So they did like 3 attempts and they just could not get it. So then my contractions fizzled out completely, and they were like 10 minutes apart then. Just the stress of it. They ended up having to get, I always struggle to say, the anesthesiologist to come in, and he gave me a local and had to go into a deep vein because even he couldn't get it. And he's like, I'm the one they call when no one can get a vein, and even I can't get it. Yeah, then they just set me up in like their best room. It was beautiful. Like they set up fairy lights and all little tea light candles and everything. They're like, just go for a walk, have some breakfast, come back. And I'm glad it took a long time. We got there at like 2 a.m. and I had her the next day at 3:30, which I'm glad for because the team that was on during the day, I could not fault them. They were just really respectful. Once I got in, when it was changeover, the obstetricians came in and they're like, look, you're in labour. The risks associated with having another natural birth after a 4th degree test. Like, yep, I know that. They go, you've heard it all about the breech. I said, yep. Okay, well, we're not going to talk to you about it again. We're just going to leave you alone. They didn't do the CTG. The midwife that was on was just doing the intermittent, just whenever she just came in. And I was just like internalizing it all. I was just breathing. I laboured so well. Like, I know everyone's labour experiences are different, but I don't find labour that bad. It's only once I get to transition, and the midwife was in the room, and the breech midwife, she was on that day. So she was actually there for the birth, which was really nice.
Nice.
But the midwife came in and she's like, I don't even know when you're having a contraction. Like, you have to tell me when you're done because you're so quiet. But then when transition hit, I was like, I'm in transition. She's like, how do you know? I was like, because I'm actually like contemplating a C-section right now. So I was like freaking out.
I love that. You didn't even say it. You did presence for you to be able to
Yeah.
acknowledge, okay, no, that's just transition. It's fine.
Yeah. I was like, just push through, push through. I know when there's breach, has to be quite a few people in the room. And I wanted them to stay out of the room, to be honest. I was like, if I need anyone that can come in, but like, okay. So I just had the two midwives to start. And I didn't even know because I was upright on the bed, I was up on my knees, facing the wall. I didn't even know everyone had come into the room, but everyone was really respectful. No one said a word. So there was two obstetricians, another midwife, and I'm glad she was there because she ended up recording it. The recording wasn't great; it was a bit blurry, but I have something. And the pediatrician was there as well. And they just let me do it all on my own. I said, "Don't coach me, don't tell me what to do, just let me do it."
Yeah.
And yeah, they were just keeping an eye on her. They were supporting my perineum. I didn't even cross my mind at that point, oh my gosh, what if I tear again? I was like, just let's get this baby out. So I was just pushing with contractions, and I could feel it, and I was just making sure I wasn't pushing much, and I was just trying to breathe through it. And then so she was supporting my perineum, and
did she just do some warm compresses on your
warm compresses. And it was the most weirdest sensations. I think it was when the legs were coming out, but it literally felt like there was like hitting or kicking just on the inside. Like I could feel movements. I think that might have been the legs kind of slipping down. It was the most insane sensation. I can't even describe it. So at the end, it was just her head left to come out, and she's like, I'm really sorry. It's just her head. I don't want to tell you what to do, but if you can just give us one more little push, we can get her out. So they pressed down and
did shoulder
chest.
press?
Yeah, they did that, and she just came right out. They just gave it to me. The pediatrician took one step forward. The midwives were like, no, she's perfect. She's breathing. She was crying. She was completely fine. So the pediatrician took a step back. She's like, okay, sweet, we're done. She left. And yeah, the obstetricians were like completely back. They only kept a close eye on my perineum. So they were completely hands off as well. And I only sustained like a really small 2nd degree tear. I needed stitches. So from being told, yep, you can't have another natural birth, to my hospital saying, oh, well, you breech, you can't have a natural birth now, to then having that natural birth on my own terms where I chose, with these doctors and midwives actually listening to me and respecting me. It was just the most beautiful experience. I know, saying birth's beautiful. Well, it was really amazing. Beautiful. Yeah. And I remember like leading up to it, I'm like, I'm going to have this birth and I'm just going to send this hospital and this midwife like a big email, and I'm going to tell them I did it. But as soon as I had her and I was holding her in my arms, I just didn't even matter anymore. Like, it really healed something in me. I wasn't upset or bitter anymore. It just really just fixed something within me. I love talking about birth now and hearing other people's birth stories. And what happened, and it was really, really awful. But, I then proved that, I could do it. I could do it again. And it was amazing. And it did prove to me that there is still lots of obstetricians and midwives that are really in our corner. It's just having to find the right ones. And I'm so glad that I left my other hospital. I'm so glad I listened to my intuition. I'm so glad I brought on that home birth midwife who really validated me as well. And when she heard my story, she couldn't believe it. She was like, that should not have happened, like, at all. So it was the most stressful pregnancy, just trying to get what I wanted, and then coming to terms with, okay, I don't think I'll tear, but if I tear again, this is what could happen. And then being breech, and then doing everything to get her to turn around, and she obviously didn't, and then just still have that natural birth at the end, and it was just all worth it. It was beautiful.
Almost sounds like when you were talking there about like it didn't matter anymore, about writing that email, like almost like a layer of forgiveness, not necessarily for others, but for self, because a lot of the time we hold resentments within ourselves against our body, and because we didn't achieve the thing that we thought that we would achieve. And it sounds like there was a bit of forgiveness for yourself, for your body, and just being able to surrender definitely. And moving on.
Yeah, to know that I was like, okay, my body can do it, and I did it. Yeah, it was really special. And the hospital couldn't have faulted them. It would have been beautiful to have a home birth, but it was probably the best hospital birth that I could have imagined.
Yeah. Yeah. Amazing. And so baby came skin to skin, breastfed.
Yes, all the skins, breastfeeding. They were going to cut they knew that I didn't want it cut. And I was like, they were going to, I was like, no, Synto, I'm just going to do it all naturally. And they're like, all right, well, we'll give you an hour. I think within like 20 minutes, I birthed the placenta naturally and I still didn't let them cut it. So it was attached for a long time. I got to keep it. It's in the freezer at the moment.
Yeah.
We're waiting for our dog to be a little bit older because he's a puppy and we don't want him to dig it up. So I'm going to do a placenta tree. So we're going to get a fruit tree or something and give something else life. So, that placenta grew my baby and now it's going to help grow another living thing.
And how long did you stay at the hospital before you went home?
We didn't get out of birthing. Birthing was really quiet. So there was no rush to leave. So it wasn't until about probably like 6 o'clock where I got up to have my first shower and everything. And we were wrecked by that point because I was awake from about 11 or with on and off contractions the night before. So they let us just stay. They took us up to maternity and we both stayed the night, which is not very restful anyway in a maternity ward. But then we went home the next day. I just stayed long enough for her to have the screenings done. So the hearing, and then I got to I had a quick debrief with the midwife. She said they had my birth video, so they were going to use my video for training purposes at the hospital. Because she said that one of the obstetricians, he was lovely. He was quite young and he hadn't seen a breech birth where the woman just birthed on her own without any kind of coaching, or telling her when to push. So they wanted that to show how,
that you can do it.
That you can do it. And you can listen to your body.
Yeah. Do you have any resources that you would recommend to anyone listening now?
I think most of the people probably already know about it, but Melbourne Midwife, the Great Birth Rebellion,
yes,
obviously.
Absolutely.
Spinning Babies was great. Breech Without Borders. I can't even, I know there's probably a few other podcasts, Australian birth stories. I just really love listening to other people's birth now, and just because everyone's experience is just so unique and different. A C-section could bring, I'm on a 4th degree tear page, and C-sections after a tear can really bring people peace as well because they had that birth on their terms. And as long as that's what they wanted, that's completely, fine. So just to have the birth that I wanted on my own terms, that I think was what was so healing for me, which I don't think I would have gotten if I had a Caesar. If I needed to have the Caesar for whatever reason, I wasn't going to put myself or my baby at risk, but I had no risk factors. It was just, I was like, no, I'm going for it. And the birth video was just funny, watching it back, her bum was just out and then she just did the biggest meconium poo as well, everywhere. Apparently that's pretty common with Breech as well. So it's really really special, and I'm glad I have the video, and I just feel so much happier. I haven't had any issues postpartum this time, even having it's been very stressful. It's been a very big change, but I'm just very happy.
That's great. Awesome. Before we finish up, do you have any last words of wisdom that you would like to share with women listening that have a breech baby?
Just trust your gut, and doctors and obstetricians, they have their place, but they don't always know what's best for you. They try to really scare me into having a Caesar, and I'm so glad that I knew my stuff and I could ask them questions, and some questions that they couldn't even answer. I'm just really glad I was well informed and I trusted myself enough to have a breech baby. I think it comes down to trust in your body.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Yeah, I thought even if she was head down, other people that might have had a severe tear, just hearing that you can have a birth after another tear, and to have a breech birth, I just feel made it that much better.
Yeah. You got a VBAC, birth after 4th degree, breech. You just ticked a few things off there.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.
Thank you for listening to the Breech Birth podcast. These stories matter. They stretch what we think we know and bring voice to experiences that need to be heard. I'm so grateful to the women who have shared their experiences with us, raw, real, and full of wisdom. If this episode resonated with you, please follow, share, or leave a review. You can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube at Breech Birth Podcast. And if you have a breech story to share, I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, may we continue to reclaim the narrative, one story